Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Crypto Hipster Podcast. This is your host, Jamil Hassan, the Crypto Hipster, where I interview founders, executives, thought leaders, entrepreneurs, artists, musicians, you name it, all around the world in crypto and blockchain. And today I have an amazing guest. I have Gwendolyn Regina, who is the investment director at BNB Chain. Gwendolyn, welcome.
Hi, Jamil. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here. Hi, everyone.
Awesome. Everybody says hello back. Let's kick things off and ask you the first question is what is your background, and is it a logical background for what you're doing now?
Love that starter question, Jamil. My background has been a mixture of entrepreneurship and investments, as well as a media person. So I've spent the last 17 years of my career across the technology startup space and media. And it's a logical background because I've always been at the forefront of technology. I started coding when I was 12 years old. Not technical now, but broadly speaking, I love product. I love diving into how things work. And as an ex-founder myself, having sold the company as well and having invested in many different startups across the years, it's super logical at BNB Chain, because here we are, at a cutting edge of technologies, really building the next wave of internet infrastructure where I believe that a lot of our lives will continue to be changed. And what we're doing here at BNB Chain is both building and scaling the technology, as well as growing a community of builders, developers. And the third kind of a segment of users is really just the retail users and general user community. And in my career, I've basically again done all sides of the technology space, and I've grown communities as well. So yeah, super logical using that term, Jamil.
Awesome. So your role as investment director. So what do you feel is BNB's edge in your area of expertise and specialty?
One strength, and the largest strength that BNB Chain has, is that we have proven scalability. Right, our all-time high was 2.27 million daily active wallets on one single day, and that was like more than a year ago now for the all-time high during the bull market. But even in this winter bear market, we are averaging about 1 million daily active wallets. So that's the largest in terms of users across the entire space. But more importantly, we are very consistent and reliable in terms of the chain. So I would say that's our biggest strength, proven scalability. And with that, right, because of the large user base, that means that we have already a large community of users, community of quote unquote customers, right? Because a lot of the projects, protocols, decentralized apps that are in the space, what you really need are users. So that's a strength that we have.
Definitely need users. You need user experience too.
Yeah, actually, Jamil, that's a good point, right? Users, but also user experience, and it's funny that you say that, because one of the, I mean, I know I'm jumping a little bit, Jamil. I don't know whether you have that question in your mind, but one of the challenges that I think the whole blockchain and crypto space we're kind of looking at is how can we again grow the users, a community in the space to more than what we have today, right? And one of the largest challenges is really to increase the UI and UX, so basically the design and usability of the dApps. So yeah, you're right. So users we have, but we are trying to encourage everyone to hire designers. So designers, if you're listening to this, please come and join more dApps.
Yeah. Thing I used to do in corporate was I was the guy who sat between the developers and the front office, and so I would be able to take the front office specs and then bring them to the developers and explain what's needed. And I think that's something that's missing right now. Has been missing in crypto.
Oh, you're
But
right. It's almost like you're a translator, right? Essentially. Yeah, that's a very, very important skill set to have, Jamil. You're right. We're missing in the space right now.
yeah. So, but was one thing that we do have in the space is content creators, and I know back in I think it's November that you got that BNB NFTs started being listed on OpenSea, and you had some initiatives and projects with them. How's that gone?
Yeah, we did an integration with OpenSea. You're right, back in November. So it's been like 2, 3 months or so. It's been great. Because OpenSea, as all of us know, is basically one of the leading NFT marketplaces, NFT platforms as well in the world. So it was a very important partnership. It is still an important partnership for us. The OpenSea team has been incredibly helpful and very on the ball in terms of working with our team, working with the different projects that we have on BNB chain. So yeah, so we've had many different projects kind of um you know uh do sales on OpenSea, but more importantly, we've also done some marketing campaigns because with the launch we wanted to make sure that we are combining the efforts of both OpenSea, the core team of BNB chain, but also the different projects out there to really kind of make a splash, right? So we've done a few campaigns and it's been quite interesting where we've got many many users who participated in the different campaigns. For example, one of the campaigns that we did, we had almost 10,000 unique wallet addresses participate, and more importantly for BNB chain, we had quite a lot of them who are new to BNB chain. So thanks to the wider, larger OpenSea community as well, and of course on our side, there've been a lot of BNB chain users also interacting with OpenSea for the first time. So I think it was a big win-win for OpenSea and BNB chain, and also for users, right? Because ultimately what you really want is a very vibrant and thriving ecosystem, and also the ability to choose, and the ability to choose in terms of the different platforms, but also like choice in terms of NFT collections you can partake in. So it's been really incredible. It's been great. We're very excited to continue this partnership.
Awesome. So I'm trying to get my head around what's actually happening in the NFT space. Since the I'd say implosion of CeFi and the Celsius of the world and the FTXs and all that. I know some of the volume and some of the prices have come down in NFTs, but where are we actually at right now as far as the NFT subsector of crypto?
That's a good question, Jamil. I think with everything, many of the blue chip communities kind of building and still sometimes announcing new features and upcoming stuff, and kind of almost teasing the communities. I think that's largely speaking, there are always good teams and good projects still lying around. So specifically for the BNB chain NFT community, you know for us, we are looking at two kind of projects. One, the main thing is really the gaming projects, because for BNB chain, about 30 to 40% of our daily active users slash wallet addresses are gaming, right? So we are the largest, again, the largest chain in terms of users, and the largest gaming chain. And these gaming assets, NFT assets, they want more places to play it, right? So that is the one key segment in which we're seeing a lot of interest. And as you referenced the OpenSea integration, this is something that has really caught the attention and eye of many of these different gaming projects, and we're seeing more of them kind of taking into account this new avenue to build on. And the second bit is a bit wider, as you talk about kind of the larger NFT spaces, that we are seeing more platforms, and some of them are gaming, some of them aren't, but they're thinking of a few things, right? More NFT infrastructure tooling. So we've seen, some projects looking at one-click NFT rentals, right? So you're talking about NFT slash DeFi kind of thinking. We are also seeing some of the projects where it's almost like allowing you to one-click mint an NFT from Web2 platforms, right? So I can't reveal names, right? Because we're still talking to some of them. They're not kind of live yet. A lot of them are kind of like beta form and, still undergoing security audits. But these are some interesting things that we're seeing where we're looking at more builders thinking about the next evolution of how NFTs can be. And but more importantly, while with the entire space, we've been talking about this for quite some time. I think more realistically, I'm seeing these white papers and technical documentation in front of me, and some tests are ongoing. So that's looking really, really good. And I'm particularly excited about one because one platform that we're looking at, it's a more holistic gaming ecosystem already, with already a few games built on top of that platform on BNB chain, and they're building out more features and tooling like this kind of one-click NFT rental, which I think, it's very exciting because you're really kind of thinking about a whole value chain, right? And that's important because a lot of the projects out there are quite siloed to some extent. And ultimately in Web3, you're always talking about a composability and the ability to, transfer value easily. So that's all exciting. One other interesting infrastructure thing that I really want to look more at as well in terms of the NFT space is really, how can these NFT infrastructure and tooling platforms really enable the open metaverse? Because right now, when you look at this multi-chain world and cross-chain world, and we do support that wholeheartedly, ultimately a lot of the NFT collections and NFT assets are still fairly, siloed. So, the question we have regarding the open metaverse is that can there be more assets that really, can be transferred much more easily and much more interoperability amongst the different metaverses and amongst the different worlds, so to speak.
Okay. You said a couple things there, and I got to dive down into both of them. The first one is regarding the DeFi mindset, the DeFi way of thinking, right? And you guys, BNB has offered the NFT trading experience, right? Through it with the, and I'm thinking about how to get my head around this, and with the 40% gaming, but that mindset, that DeFi trading experience applied to NFTs, how's that been different with NFTs than your traditional, cryptocurrencies and leverage trading?
I don't think they're exactly similar, right? Because you cannot look at it the same way because NFTs ultimately, literally what NFT means is non-fungible tokens, right? Whereas for DeFi, they are fungible, right? One ETH, another ETH, and one BNB, another BNB. They're basically the same, right? So I would say the mindsets are different, but I think what you're trying to get to is that, like what I just said or earlier, when I kind of reference the NFT, cross of DeFi, I think it's not about having the same kind of thinking, but seeing the evolution of of how both spaces can coalesce more effectively. So I do not think that it, uh, the um, the outcomes would be the same. But when you're talking about the different ways of interacting with NFTs right now, you have you can't, you can place a bid, on the different marketplaces, but it's not exactly real time, right? So again, by this in itself is actually already very different. I think what is evolving is the ability to use NFTs in different ways. It's to think about them more as collateral, for example, right? I'm sure you've seen, and your audience have also seen and talked about the potential collateralization of NFTs. That's interesting. And again, I mentioned earlier NFT rentals, right? So it's usage of NFTs more as assets you can I wouldn't use the word leverage, so because leverage shares used a bit differently, right? But assets that you can collateralize, to use that word, I think that's more effective here. It's more relevant here. It's very different from I would say, much more short-term mindset of pure DeFi, because in DeFi right now, and of course DeFi itself is also evolving, right? But the core base of DeFi, it's a lot of traders for sure. You have some, obviously, the perps and futures, for example, as well. But at this point, the NFT space is still evolving, where we're not yet at a stage where we can kind of place a lot of future bets on the potential pricing of it. There are tools and there are people smarter people in NFT space thinking about all these. But I would say the mindsets are still very, very, very different. But what we're excited about is really seeing NFTs evolve as more of an asset play. Because ultimately NFTs, what are they? They're IP, sure, but they're also at its core, it's community, it's membership, it's almost like a gateway to a bigger, different world, right? And that's a bit different from the pure DeFi mindset.
Makes sense to me. Yeah, that word is important. Collateralization. You could take your content creating in your mind and create a collateral and make create it into an asset. So yeah, that's awesome. And then the second thing you mentioned was an open metaverse. So I want to follow up on that. What is your view? What is your vision of an open metaverse?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jamil, since I brought it up, right? So it makes sense for me to semi-define it. So the open metaverse for us, I mean, actually, I'll take a step back, Jamil. If you mention metaverse right now, some people would jokingly say it doesn't exist, right? And other people would jokingly say that we've always been in a metaverse. I mean, what is the metaverse? It's online. It's just an online world, right? Or not, right? Or is it 3D, right? Depends on how you define it. So for us, what we're thinking about really is kind of broader than that. I think we're very aware that, again, like blockchain and Web3 was still very nascent. And for us, we at BNB Chain, we're always thinking about building that infrastructure layer to enable the evolution of Web3, which means we want to enable the evolution of open metaverses. So what we have here today is that you do have different metaverses that are siloed. You do have people, dApps and protocols of dApps, building assets for different metaverses. Some of them are the same, some of them are different assets. But what we envision, what we think the open metaverse will evolve into is the ability to, again, more easily transfer value from one metaverse to the other, more easily, leverage and, again, using a word maybe a bit wrongly, but collateralize and use the assets you have in more multi-chain. So how will we see this come to pass? We don't have a crystal ball. I can't give you an exact description, whereby, hey, we are waking up every morning in Metaverse 1 and having our virtual lunch in Metaverse 2, and we're able to, able to it improves in certain stats. Can we transfer that value out to another avatar 3 and Metaverse 3? I don't know. I don't exactly know how it will really come to pass, because a lot of this is obviously user behavior, right? And also actually a lot of how the open metaverse will evolve is going to come down to design, right, Jamil, as you pointed out, as you brought up, which is usability as well. So there's a lot of different elements in any piece of technology that helps shape what that technology, how the technology will actually be interacted with on a daily basis for us. So I don't have an exact definition for you or clear picture to paint, right? But really, ultimately, it's in simple one sentence language. It's really the ability to transfer of value, transfer your assets, and use it wherever you want, whichever metaverse you want.
Very cool. Yeah. So I have two more questions now, but let's the first one, then I'll go into the second. How have you seen the integration with OpenSea, right? Since November, how have you seen it bring in a large number of creators into the wider ecosystem first and empower them? How have you seen that so far? And then what further goals do you have based on having seen what you've seen? If that makes sense.
So to return to the OpenSea kind of discussion, we definitely have seen an increase of interest in the NFT space, because for us at BNB Chain, NFTs has been something that we've been putting a lot more effort into increasing the diversity and strength of the space. And we are seeing more like more interesting profiles from even a Web2 space thinking now of coming to build either NFT collections or to build new projects and dApps that has an NFT component and then building on BNB chain. So I would say that this partnership, definitely has gotten a lot more eyeballs, right? Has been definitely a good thing. And just from a wider perspective as well, is that our team has also again put in more resources into enabling this space. So I think definitely check on all boxes, which is that we've seen an increase in users, in increase of NFT users on BNB chain, check. Increase of interest in new creators and builders thinking about building NFTs, check. As well as these people think about building NFTs on BNB chain. So for us, it's been exciting to have these conversations with many of these strong entrepreneurs and builders on the Web2 space. Because in our work as well, when we talk to these Web2 folks, a part of our role is also to educate people, right? Educate them about like, hey, what's in Web3? How can you really leverage Web3? Why should you build Web3, and perhaps why should you not build on Web3, right? Because we almost act as semi-advisory sometimes, where these Web2 entrepreneurs that can be extremely, extremely experienced in their fields, they've built companies for and serve many users, but Web3 requires a slightly different mindset, definitely a different business model, especially for dealing with tokens, right? And so part of our work really is to help people transition from Web2 to Web3 as well, both the entrepreneur side as well as the user side. And again, we've seen much more interest from that perspective, so it's been increased, and it's been very, very encouraging.
Awesome. So I brought that back into the equation because there are some global challenges like that are happening now and that are going to happen right at the forefront of NFTs and the metaverse and gaming, expansion. What do you think that some of them are, and how are we going to navigate that?
Yeah. So for us, as I mentioned earlier, we are excited about NFT tooling. We are excited about how the intersection of NFT, cross of DeFi, cross of Metaverse, cross of social fi would be interesting. So at BNB Chain, we have used a term we call MetaFi. MetaFi meaning not meta in terms of metaverses, but a metadata, right? So harkening back again to what I talked about regarding the transfer of value and, earlier the open metaverse, right? Ultimately, MetaFi for us is really how, the different spaces are each evolving such that the new stuff that we're going to see would be exciting. So for us, we're going to see more, again, more the different kind of GameFi projects evolving to having more sophisticated NFT strategies. We are also seeing, more NFTs being in-game assets. We are seeing again more different kinds of NFT tooling, which is could be again a one-click rental, could be collateralization of NFTs to then allow you to do many other different things. Could be allowing users to do pure DeFi things, right? So collateralizing your NFT to perhaps take a loan somewhere else, right? And nothing to do in the gaming ecosystem, perhaps, right? So we're starting to see more people looking at NFTs as well. It's not just a paid JPEG, right? But as actual assets that you can then use and it's part of your property, so to speak, that you can then use within a Web3 space. So I know that that's a very high level, right? Because ultimately there's many different projects building the space right now, and we have been working with many different GameFi projects specifically, and as I mentioned earlier, different kind of toolings that we're still kind of doing our due diligence on. That's why I can't mention them. But I think in a few months you will start seeing more of these names pop up more publicly from us, but not right now.
I'm excited I'll be here. So, I'll be looking forward to seeing what you're doing. And I have a weekly news show which I recap like a lot of the regulatory news around the world. And from a regulatory perspective, things are like really tightening up in every individual country. And I know BNB chain is global and you don't really have a jurisdiction per se. So how's that affecting you, or is it not affecting you at all?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? So for us at BNB Chain, we are mostly dealing in we are entirely in a Web3 decentralized world, right? But at the same time, we are looking at the space broadly speaking, just because regulations across the entire blockchain space and Web3 space is important. As we know, there's two sides of Web3, right? With the centralized platforms and the decentralized platforms. So for us, we how we're really thinking about the regulation side of things is that it's what there's a few ways we can cut it, right? One's the nodes perspective slash the infrastructure, and for the node side of things, depending on where the nodes are, they could fall under different jurisdictions and thus different regulations. That's one. Second is that when we think about permission and non-permission blockchains, right, and permissionless blockchains, so BNB chain, we are permissionless at this point, right? So but what we're seeing when we say permission, you're talking about enterprise blockchains, but with enterprise blockchains, then there could be a regulation component as well, right? So how we're seeing the regulation space is that we are aware of how regulations are affecting the space and can affect the space. But for us, the core team of BNB Chain, we're dealing we're dealing with a lot of more of the decentralized projects that, for example, we talked a lot about the GameFi in this recording so far, right? In this podcast so far. So a lot of them, when we talk to them, there's less of a regulation talk for now, at least, right? But at the same time, part of our security team, part of our kind of due diligence is also making sure that when we talk to these different projects, again, be it in the GameFi space, be it the infrastructure in terms of tooling, in terms of nodes, that they are aware of the legal potentials and risks within their home base, within where the team is based, and we advise and work with them accordingly to work around to work with and make sure that everything is compliant. But at the same time, because of the core team here, we deal a lot with this decentralized side of things. I would say that there is some aspect of our work that deals with that, but largely speaking, not quite yet. Does that make sense, Jamil?
It does. And so it gets into my next question, actually. And what I've noticed over the past half year with the crypto winter, right, is we have a friction filled crypto ecosystem, right, in a world also that's filled with friction, right. um Not necessarily friendly, but how can we collaborate effectively to achieve a frictionless and friendly vision that I know that you and OpenSea and BNB Chain, have, and real, and like, how do you see that happening, or if you do?
Yeah, the word frictionless, I think it's amazing. It's good and it's a good vision to have. I do think we're extremely far away from a frictionless Web3 ecosystem right now, right? Even for us Web3 natives, switching wallets, switching chains, switching protocols and dApps is still not the easiest sometimes. I still think we have a long way to go as an ecosystem, as Web3 community. And how we are trying to we're thinking about some of these is that, again, just now we talk about design, right? So we are trying to make sure that we are doing our part to educate the Web2 folks about Web3, number one, but number two, also getting talent into the space. So for example, BNB Chain, we launched a jobs, like ecosystem jobs portal, right? So BNB chain projects and dApps that are hiring, we welcome them to put up the openings, the job openings on the portal, so that and then on our side we actually publicize that so that we can get just more of that these opportunities out in front of the wider BNB chain community, in front of the wider crypto community, blockchain community, but also to the Web2 community. So I think that's another part. Getting talent in is very, very important to increasing the sophistication of the space, right? Everything from across design to even more technical builders, to people thinking about bringing their own expertise into the space and thinking about evolving that particular space. So for example, health and blockchain, very interesting, right? We're seeing a lot of real world assets people think like real world assets in this space and evolving even more. That's another space that BNB chain we're very excited about, right? So thinking about real estate, on the blockchain and stuff like that, right? So we want to see more industry experts from traditional industries, from the Web2 space, come into the space, and I think all these requires a lot of education and again sharing with them opportunities so that they know they can land immediately in Web3 and contribute at a high level, yet learning, and all together then we evolve, right? So will that really bring us to a frictionless space? Not immediately and not quite, right? Because frictionless might then, what does it mean? Does it mean that everything is cross-chain, everything is purely multi-chain immediately? I'm not sure, right? Because that also depends on where your personal philosophy is, right? Is it going to be a world where there'll be many chains, a multi-chain ecosystem, which we already are, but that each ecosystem is more siloed rather than cross-chain? Or do you believe in a more cross-chain world versus a siloed world, right? So it depends, right? But if you talk about frictionless, I'm going to just zoom out and say, in terms of general usability, right? We still have a long way to go, but I think collectively we're already trying to improve many things, design, talent. And the last bit I would like to just point out here, is security, right? I think security is one big thing in which all of us have a duty and a part to play in both designing projects and developing products that make it easy for your users to complete the actions and make it difficult for them to make a mistake. I think that's very important. And from a security side of things, we at BNB Chain, for example, we have announced and in progress have something we call Avenger DAO. So Avenger DAO is a coalition of many people in the space, security and many different protocols, who are collectively building a few things, a few products like Meter and Watch, where we're looking and watching like live on-chain transactions and highlighting the risks immediately. We're building APIs based on all the work that everyone is doing together. And so any centralized or decentralized products and protocols can actually call these APIs. And if there's any breach that happens somewhere within the ecosystem, it will be immediately be flagged and information dispersed, right? So we are working on all of these to help make the Web3 space more usable, for lack of a better word again, right? Which hopefully that is brings us one step towards being much more frictionless.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah, we got a long way to go, but the good thing is that we got a long way to go. So things will be growing and building from there. So I want to thank you very much for your time today. I enjoyed speaking with you. I enjoyed our conversation, and I have, yeah, it's been a pleasure. And I have one final question, and it's this: is how can people find out more information about you, about BNB Chain? How can they, learn what's going on? How can they participate? How can they do any of that?
Thank you so much, Jamil. So you can find us on social media at our Twitter handle at BNB Chain. That's really very simple. And we're also on YouTube and across the board. We also have a 24/7 Discord channel, especially for builders and developers. So you can go to our Twitter account, BNB Chain, to find out the different links to our Discord, to the different Telegram channels. We have a very, very vibrant community across many different languages as well, right? So yes, Jamil, hopefully your listeners will go online to find us. And yeah, I'm personally at Gwendolyn Regina online as well. But yeah, come visit us at BNB Chain, and there's so much waiting for your listeners, Jamil, in BNB Chain, and I hope that more people will come and build with us.
Awesome. So do I. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Jamil, for having me and having us.